doing something a little different today. I've got a different type of guest on. This is the first journalist that's ever been on Ag Warriors. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so Boston kid.
Yes, I grew up about hour and a half out of Boston in rural Western Massachusetts. And it's interesting because now I'm in big ag. I cover row crops, I cover massive combines, and I grew up in a very tightly woven farm ecosystem where you go to a restaurant and the food that you eat was grown within miles of where you're sitting. When you go into a grocery store, you're buying your neighbor's produce. It's just a very closely connected community where agriculture is really at the center of it. So it's been
Oh,
interesting transitioning into this big ag space where it's just so much different, and that concept is foreign.
yeah, I mean, you're lucky in some aspects, I feel, having had that experience growing up because, I grew up in big cities. Even when I lived rurally, I didn't even know where the food came from, how it was. Like I wouldn't have had the experience or the foresight to know that that food in the grocery store was, somebody grew that or somebody raised that. So,
Well, I really took it for granted, and I thought, everywhere was like that. And then when you told me agriculture, I would have thought of that, that close
mm,
community connection where instead of going to a grocery store, you could drive down one street and get basically all of your shopping done from local farm stands. And I was actually at a farm in Iowa yesterday. I was covering, again, row crops and livestock and things like that. And this particular farm is participating in a very new Iowa initiative that's trying to do just that. They're trying to connect the local community with the local farms. So they're trying to build that infrastructure. And it was interesting to see something like that taking place in the Midwest where I had never seen it before.
and interesting thing, I actually know of two different places up here where there is cattle farmers that have partnered. So actually, there's one, the coolest thing, I think it's in Saskatoon, but it's basically a meat vending machine. All of the stuff comes fresh from the farm that's in there, which I thought was really cool. So you can go like buy your steaks. I'm not sure exactly where that is. I want to go check it out next time I'm in Saskatoon. Also in Saskatchewan, in a little town right out, right outside Regina, there's a local guy that set up basically a butcher's shop. So it's fresh all the time. It's turned into this big thing. Like people are coming from
Hmm.
all over Saskatchewan, and the ranchers now have a model and a way to sell directly to the end user. So they're very excited to partner with this butcher shop, and he's just expanded from this little like side of the road, middle of nowhere Saskatchewan to having a store in Regina and a store in Saskatoon, and I think we're going to start seeing more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. COVID was a big driver of that because everybody started staying home. And, these farms that I visited yesterday, they were commenting on that, on how the ecosystem, the farm to table ecosystem, particularly when it comes to beef and pork, was really accelerated by COVID. And suddenly there was a desire to create community, to buy local. And now, they're shipping all over the world. Some of these farmers that I talked to, not just next door. The infrastructure has slowly grown, and now they're able to reach those direct consumers.
So, did you ever think growing up in Western Massachusetts that you were going to end up being in agriculture and really you're at the forefront of so many different things, or you get to know about it before others? Is that ever like, I want to be involved in this?
It's wild. I consider myself an accidental journalist. My journey into agriculture is very unexpected, but so is my journey into journalism. I did not expect to be where I'm at today. No way.
I have to say about people that grew up in Massachusetts is you've really been spoiled as far as sports teams go between the Celtics and the Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins. Like you guys have enough championships. You're a tiny little state. Like you need to share with the rest of us because we need more.
Especially my generation. I mean, The only thing I
Yes.
can ever remember is winning Super Bowls and winning World Series and winning NBA titles. I mean, it was an annual affair. It was like, okay, now we're gonna go
Ho
out to the
hop. We're
parade.
gonna, yeah, we're gonna win again. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. My journey into journalism has been really unexpected. So I went into the military out of high school, and I was in the Air Force. I was a firefighter, and that was the path that I was going down. I was an EMT. I was working in a medium-sized city out here, and then I deployed, and I found myself taking more pictures than anything else. And the sergeant sat me down, and he was like, have you ever thought about going into journalism? So then I came back.
Where did you deploy to?
I was in Bahrain, a very quiet deployment, but so I came back and I went to a community college here for photography. And then I applied for a photographer job at a local news station because I thought it was photography. And it turned out it was video. So I was sitting in the interview and I didn't tell them that I was shocked when they took out a big video camera, but I got the job. So then I was a camera person. And from there, I pivoted into producing. So I was behind the scenes, writing the scripts, putting on the live shows. And that sort of got me interested in the news writing aspect. So I finished off my degree in English and I started writing for a local newspaper. And that's the way that I got into it.
So deployed, took pictures, thought you were going to be a photographer. Turned out you were a videographer who actually liked producing, liked putting the stories together, and thought maybe I should write. And now you're a journalist.
Yeah, and I should also note, along that path, I was working at a theme park, drawing caricatures. So I was really doing all sorts of different things, and then they all coalesced into journalism. And at that local paper, I was actually doing the political cartoons for a little while. So I saw sort of all of these disparate skill sets that I had developed very randomly really came together in journalism, and that's what pushed my career forward.
Political characters. I think there was another famous Massachusetts way back when that starred. What isn't Benjamin Franklin from Massachusetts? Like, wasn't that his thing? He was a journalist slash political drawings.
He did have a newspaper. I can't tell you. I can't. Don't quote me about where he was born because I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. Anyways, thank you for your service too. I mean, as my grandparents and uncles fought for the United States or served for the United States, and it's an honor to have you on just for that reason. I'm sure there's a whole nother podcast that could be about your time there, but we're talking journalism. So as you kind of transitioned here into journalism, what was like the time that you're like, man, I want to get back into agriculture. I want to write or I want to be involved in agriculture. What led you to that?
I started covering the food and farm section for our local region. So I was really getting out to a lot of farms. I started a food column. I was sort of blogging about cooking and things like that. And the connection between food and farming in my region is just so tightly connected that I found myself out at a lot of farms. So that was the thing that sort of roped me back into it and sparked my interest in it.
Being on farms and being involved in food is not being involved in equipment, and
No.
you are in a whole you're not I mean, I guess I don't know if you're still blogging about food and that, but where did the jump come from that you wanted to start talking about equipment?
I can credit my wife for that. So she's a nurse. She works as a pediatric oncology nurse, and it was a dream for quite some time to do the travel nursing. So just after COVID, we kind of had this whole 10-year plan mapped out, and we finally got our ducks in a row. And I was looking for jobs that were remote because I needed to take my life digital. And so I got a job covering local government from a business perspective, and so I was writing about town clerks, city administrators. And with that, a lot of technology, like smart streets, drones for police departments, things like that. So that was the hook that pulled me into the technology side. And of course, a lot about AI. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then from there, having covered so much technology and understanding sort of the complexities of things like edge computing, I pivoted into agriculture. It was a lateral transfer within the umbrella company, and I found that most of the technologies that I was covering there transition into agriculture. So it was really mostly the same things, but just in different applications.
And so, what's it been like? Because traveling nursing is hard. Like that's not an easy profession. And what's it? I don't want to spend too much time there, but what's it been like to, I guess, have a partner that is a travel nurse, and how does that work?
We have a little pod. We have a rescue pup that we go, and we just, bounce around every 3 months. We've been to a lot of different places. Last year, we went to 13 or 14 national parks. We spent a month exploring Utah. So we've really been able to get out, get around, and we own a house back in Massachusetts. So around the holidays, we road trip back and spend the holidays there. But it's kind of been a unexpected blessing because I've covering agriculture. I've been able to get out to farms all across the country, which
Hmm.
has been nice because I've experienced the breadth of American agriculture in a way that I think a lot of people probably haven't.
So where is the coolest place that you've been that you were like, couldn't believe that how they were doing agriculture?
The coolest place I've been was in Texas, and it was probably an hour and a half out of Dallas. But the reason it was cool is because these farmers had really invested in solar, and their philosophy was basically to create a positive and sustainable succession plan that they could pass on to their children and maintain the farm for generations to come. And the impetus that pushed them into the solar was a high-speed rail that was going to come through their property and take eminent domain. And so to prevent that, they signed a lease with some of their land with the developer to basically protect it so that the high speed rail couldn't come through. And they were posed with, a conundrum. I mean, do you want a train zooming past your house or do you want solar panels? And they chose the solar panels. And it's become a really sustainable source of income for them. And they pivoted from cattle into sheep. So now they also, manage flocks of sheep. They have a bunch of sheepdogs. It's just a really interesting operation, and it was interesting to see the way they've evolved in their thinking and embraced change, embraced technology. Because I think these technologies are inevitable. They're going to come, and I think the big question is how are farmers going to handle that evolution?
Right. How are they going to pivot? And they went obviously from cattle to sheep because you can't have cattle under solar panels, but you can have sheep.
Yes, yeah, and they still
Yeah.
they still raise cattle, but
Just
they
not on that
also
land.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that is super cool. You'll have to make your way. I don't know if you guys ever get out to California, but Northern California, I had the opportunity to be on a rice farm out there, and this particular farm grew rice, and I've made all kinds of wagers with people if they can guess their second crop, and nobody can because it's walnuts. They grew white rice and walnuts, and I also didn't know that 70% of the sushi rice in the world is grown in Northern California, seems like a crazy stat to me, but they grow rice designed specifically for sushi. So you have to get out there sometime because it's super diverse, which I imagine you guys travel out that way, or are you mostly Midwest?
We haven't been to California yet, but I really want to. Let's see. We were in Boise for a while. We're in Norfolk, Virginia now, so
Okay.
we really move around. Yeah, we're about 5 minutes from the beach, which I can't really complain about.
Yeah, you're bragging now. I live in Manitoba. Like, yeah, the ocean is great. Boise's pretty sweet too. Were you up there with
Hmm.
were you reporting on potato farming and stuff like that in that area, or
I was mostly working for the government publication that was covering municipalities. So at that point, I wasn't, but
you weren't
we
in
did get a
farming
lot
at
of
that time?
we did get a lot of snowboarding in, so that was good.
I see you seem like you got it figured out. Marry a traveling nurse, get to travel everywhere with her, and then do all kinds of cool things.
Sometimes I have to pinch myself. It's really a dream life that I lucked into in many ways.
Oh, that's super cool. So, you know, you talked about really being involved in technology and AI on that side, and then it kind of transitioned into the agriculture side. What are some of the trends, or what are some of the things that you're seeing as far as innovation goes that's either using AI or just is really cool?
When I first came into this role, I was pretty intimidated because um, all of my coworkers and everybody that I interact with, they've been in agriculture for generations. I mean, they've been doing it for a while. They have a lot more agronomical knowledge than I have, and they can speak to the crop side way better than I can. But I think, and as I've covered this more, I've come to see that my fresh perspective is somewhat of an advantage because there's so much technology that's pouring into the space right now that is totally new, and I think there's some resistance to that because things have been the way they've been for so long. But because I have a fresh perspective, I'm not biased by that, and I can see the possibilities. I can see the opportunities. Um, so in terms of trends, the one thing that I'm really excited about, and I know this has been probably hammered a lot, but AI is changing everything, and not just in agriculture. I mean, every other industry is about to get upended by general artificial intelligence, which is going to take over so many different roles. It's going to change the way that we interact with each other, the way that we do work. And in terms of agriculture, I think the applications are just exciting to be able to uh, aggregate data and sort through complex information and then come up with solutions to increase yield, to optimize efficiencies in ways that humans could never do because we just can't think through things as fast as a supercomputer can.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's where we're going to see the biggest jump with AI is exactly that. There's so much data that's been collected, and obviously companies have tried to use that to monetize it, but I don't know. And they're using it to try to help the farmers do better, but to be able to evaluate all of that data and to be able to go back years and spot trends, I
Mhm.
think that you're bang on that that's probably going to be the biggest thing. What about on the equipment side? Do you see AI really making a play there, or are we not going to need, like, I'm sure you're aware, labor shortage is a huge deal in North America for farmers. So do you see AI playing there?
I mean, all everything is driven by AI these days. So when you mention that, I mean, the applications are endless. But I was listening to an IBM scientist last year who was talking at an AI conference put on by Texas A&M, and one thing that he said really stuck out to me. So basically, he said that AI in its inception dates back to the 1960s. So this technology has been under uh, development for decades. I mean, half a century.
Yeah.
So it's not new, but it is new in agriculture. And the reason for that is because up to this point, it's been relegated to information systems. So, like we see the chatbots that are emerging, and they're able to work within the English language and come up with answers and solutions within limited characters, right? Or if you apply it to business, like you're using spreadsheets, you're inputting data, and it's sorting through that data and coming up with answers. But all of that is within the computer, right? So the reason it's coming so quickly into agriculture is because we've reached a point that we're able to understand data that's derived and taken from the physical world. So we're able to use cameras to understand spatial relationships, and we're able to pull data from sensors that are reading things in the dirt, that are understanding the difference between a leaf and a tree trunk. So but it's more or less using the same systems to basically understand that information. But the big difference is that we're able to pull data from the physical world into the computers. So that jump has really pushed it forward, and that's why we're seeing such an explosion, in all of these different systems, from drones that are using edge computing to understand where a telephone line is, and I mean I think the latest drones can see like a finger width wire from something like 200 feet away.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
it's insane. And to the automation that is driving machines now. And it's interesting. I don't think everyone probably holds my excitement for it. I was actually listening to a CEO the other day of a company that I won't mention, but he wasn't as excited about it. And he was basically saying that it's overhyped, that it's not going to change things, and that they're kind of pulling away from it. But I don't hold that perspective. I think, in 10 years, it's going to completely have upended everything.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I know that there are certainly companies out there, people out there that are very, I won't even say slow to embrace it. They're almost resistant to it. But I think that, I honestly believe that in 3 years, there's going to be two kinds of companies, and one's going to be the kind that have embraced and are learning to leverage it, and then those that no longer exist. Because I'm of the belief that, if we think about modern times, electricity changed everything, right? The
Mm-hmm.
automobile changed everything. I think, because AI has been around for a long time, but I think AI and in its current state and how it continues to grow and learn is going to be as big or bigger than electricity. And that's crazy to think about.
Well, I think a more recent example is to think about the dot-com era and the emergence of the internet. I mean, I'm still pretty
Okay, so
young.
I forgot the internet. That's another one. Yeah.
I remember playing Pac-Man on a 19 something, dial-up computer, and now I'm taking out my cell phone and I'm, talking to
Yeah.
someone around the world. Like the advancement of the internet has come so fast, so far, and I think if you think about AI in terms of that, it's really going to be mind-boggling. I mean, how quickly that's developed, and now you're creating artificial intelligences that can think, at 1,000 times the speed of a human. So how much faster is this technology going to develop and evolve?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. It's funny. I think previously when we were talking, I told you we had built an AI tool for helping farmers dial in their combines with our concaves. Well, now that we're going into Brazil, we had to do the same tool in Portuguese. So I literally just got it and sent it off yesterday. But it's so cool that, it took us a long, I won't say a long time, but a while to get it developed. To tell it to be able to do it in Portuguese was like a week. Like,
Mm.
it just blows my mind.
It builds on each other, and
Yeah.
it's like foundations. And now that we have this foundation, it's gonna really accelerate. But I will say, there's also dangers with that. And one thing that I've noticed is, because so many other exterior businesses are suddenly pouring into agriculture, you have an influx of people in the space that don't necessarily understand, the people that are doing the agriculture. They don't understand the cultures, and I think there's a danger of oversaturating the space, and you see machinery companies that are sort of becoming software companies more. So it's evolving very quickly, and I think if it's not managed correctly, farmers do have a lot to lose here.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's funny to hear, 15 minutes ago or whatever, we were talking about how, and that was going to be one of my follow-up questions, but like I told you, rabbit trailed. But you had said, you got into agriculture, you hadn't really been in it, where there's a lot of second, third, fourth, fifth generation farms, kind of felt like an outsider. And here you are. And I didn't grow up in ag either, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But here we are talking about other people trying to come into what now we consider being a part of it. It's like, well, I don't know about those guys, but
Yes, and that's something else that I wrote down in preparation for this was the opportunities that this presents as well for people that uh, maybe they're not in agriculture like you and I to be able to enter into this space, or maybe they are. Maybe they're the child of a farm, maybe they're the sixth generation farmer who's coming to a point where like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But now they have an opportunity, they can go out and get into technology. They can study engineering and then they can build machines that help their parents do their job better. So there's opportunities that are emerging very rapidly. And just 2 days ago, I shadowed an ag drone spray drone pilot who in a previous life he was a paraglider for Red Bull, and he was world ranked. He did all of these competitions, and then from there he got into wingsuit flying, and he has
Holy,
thousands of jumps. And he's a paragliding instructor. He does all these extreme sports, and he grew up in Minnesota, and he has a child now, and he realized that maybe I shouldn't be jumping out of planes anymore. So he was trying to sort of reinvent himself, and he's been using drones for some time to follow him, through the air. So he understands the drone technology, and he moved back home, and he was able to take that knowledge and apply it to agriculture. So now he started an ag spray drone business, and he's bringing something that a 60-year-old farmer doesn't have maybe the bandwidth to be able to learn, but he's bringing a huge value to the space, and he's able to enter it because of this new technology that's emerging. So that's a really benefit.
and because of his experience, where he probably never thought as he was jumping out of planes and off of buildings and cliffs that someday I'm going to be able to leverage all of this back into agriculture. That's super cool.
It
So,
is.
what's his name? Where's he from? Like, tell us more.
His name is Alex Peterson, and I don't know if he wants me to say that. He probably does. He just started his business, but he's in Minnesota. But he was a really cool guy. He was very gracious, allowed me to follow him around, and it was just a really cool conversation. It was exciting to see his passion for the drones being able to be a benefit for the people that he grew up with.
Did he grow up on a farm and
He
then leave
didn't.
the farm?
No, he
No.
didn't. He did grow up in Minnesota though, so he was around farms, around agriculture.
That's cool. It was funny as you were talking about how, maybe kids who were farm kids that weren't looking to be involved in this. And I met a really cool kid a couple weeks ago. I shouldn't say kid, he's like 25, but he was at a farm show I was at with his father, who is the farmer, but his brother is who farms with his dad. He's an agronomist, but he's in the middle of developing an app using AI to help agronomists look at data and make suggestions. And they've won all kinds of funding from the government and stuff like that. But you're exactly right. Here's this guy that, isn't the farm's not big enough for him, but now he's still going and he's using this to help his dad and
Hmm.
all of the farmers in that area that he's an agronomist do better. So yeah, that's a very interesting point.
It's an exciting time for agriculture, and it's not just the people that are leaving the farm too. You have the next generation that are growing up into this technology, and they're embracing it just as rapidly, and they're using it to improve their efficiencies and be better farmers.
So one of the things that I'm a huge, huge believer in is farm shows. It's what I built my whole business around. Like farm shows, digital media, because we've represented so many small products that the farmers can't see. But I'm hearing it from lots of companies. Like I know a lot of bigger companies are like, oh, farm shows are dead. Farm shows are a waste of time. I don't necessarily believe that for us, but what role do you think that farm shows, I guess, still play in agriculture and specifically around AI and technology? Do we still need farm shows?
I think education is a really big one because these technologies are advancing so quickly. I think that interface with the farmers it spans a gap. Like, I mentioned that there are all these people coming into the space that don't necessarily understand the culture. Um, Farm shows are an opportunity to create that interaction. And by creating it, you're connecting these two worlds. You're connecting, Silicon Valley. You're connecting a technology developer from South Korea, from Japan, from China, with a Midwestern 52-year-old man. Like, when would that connection ever in any world happen? But that's an important one because these technologies are, I mentioned before, they're inevitable. Like, they're going to happen. You can stand there and resist. You can say, I'm never going to use a computer in my life, and then in 2 years you're going to be out of work because the 18-year-old kid is a whiz on the computer, and he just took over your job because he can do 10 times as much as you can try as you're writing in a ledger with the pencil. So, like,
Right.
you can stand and say, this is never going to happen, but it's like standing in the face of a hurricane. I mean, it's coming one way or another, and you can choose to embrace it or you can choose to not embrace it. So these farm shows, I think, in today's era, create this important connecting point between the engineers, the people that are creating this technology, and maybe they grew up on a farm, maybe they didn't, maybe they're laterally transferring from some tech firm in Denver. Maybe they developed their skills at IBM and now they're applying it to the ag space. And the person that actually knows how they're going to, put this technology to use. So yes, I think farm shows still play an important role.
Do you think they're going to change? Like, I've been doing farm shows now for 12 years, and it's there's a lot of equipment at shows, and uh, for me, like I said specifically, we believe in farm shows. We spend a lot. We track every dollar, so I know how valuable they are to our business. But do you think we're gonna like you? The first thing you said, which was interesting to me, was education, and then I think about some of the largest farm shows, and there isn't an education component. So do you think we're going to see a change there, or like,
Yes, and it's interesting because I've come from another industry, and we put on a like, professional show that was showcasing different technologies related to municipalities, and there was a massive technological education component of that. I mean, there was, seminars. And if you think of other industries, like, that's kind of the bread and butter, is you come to a conference, you have the showroom floor where you can go check out the technology, and then you go in, the back rooms and you can listen as somebody talks about it. I don't think agriculture has really evolved to that because the business models are different for many different reasons. But I think as this technology becomes more complex, you're probably going to see that transition to educational focus. And I can tell you at the Farm Progress Show, which obviously my company puts on, we're definitely integrating more technology. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but I'll give you an example. We're putting emphasis on drones. We're creating a tent where farmers can interface with the commercial pilots, and that is going to be an educational component because this is a new technology that's coming into the space. I think there's a lot of trepidation perhaps around it. There's just not a lot of knowledge. So these are opportunities to learn from one another.
yeah, that's cool. I was at one of the sister shows, Agri Show in Brazil this year, and I mean, I've never seen so many drone companies in my life at a farm show, and they all had like, basically, if you would think of like kind of a space, but with netting all around, so that people were actually flying the drones, and you could see the drones spraying. It was unbelievable, and I know that there's a ton of regulations in the United States compared to maybe Brazil.
Yeah.
But I thought that, man, that would be something if you could create a space where people could come fly the drones and see how easy it is to fly them. Because I think that's part of the trepidation is like this
Hmm.
farmer's like, I know how to drive a sprayer.
Yeah.
My dad taught me, my grandpa taught me. I don't know how to fly a drone. And it's really, that's where I start seeing some of this play at farm shows is like getting the farmers involved in that.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the education because I mean, 20, 30, 40 years ago, farmers could work on their own equipment. Like you could understand a diesel engine, and if you could understand one diesel engine, you could understand all of them, right?
Yeah.
You could get the basic function of how a combine worked, of how a tractor worked. But with things like AI, I mean, these are abstract technological innovations, right? Like you can't put your hands on it. So I think there needs to be more education for sure. And yeah, just letting farmers know how these systems work.
Maybe we need to partner together and throw the largest technological or technology only farm show in North America, and we'll fly people in. It'll just be all education and technology, no equipment.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where it's going. Like, and you see some of the bigger brands showcasing at CES, these different technological shows. There's a reason for that. It's because,
Yeah.
uh, software is becoming more complex and suddenly, machinery brands, most of their proprietary technology is software now. They're iron, different paint colors, but what makes them special is the computers that drive them.
I couldn't agree more, man. This is not at all like a normal podcast, but that's cool because there is no normal with Egg Warriors. It's just kind of let's go where it goes. I am thoroughly enjoying this. I do want to ask you, like, you're in media,
Mhm.
right? And for some people, media is it's the media, but you're clearly very passionate about agriculture. You're not just writing stories for a paycheck. I can just tell, and I hope that four people that watch this, including my mom or whoever watches this, can sense your passion because it's super cool. But what kind of stories in agriculture maybe should the media be focused on that they currently aren't? Or what are the stories that you really feel deserve your attention and that you're really trying to focus in on?
This is something that I've grappled with, and I've tried to work on more, but frankly, it's just difficult to unloose these types of stories and these stories about ROI, return on investment. I mean, if you go out and buy the latest piece of technology and you just drop X amount of money on it, how do you know that you're going to make that back? How do you know if it's worth it? You don't. I extend it not just to the media, but I mean, I think there needs to be more scientific investigation onto these technologies. I would say there needs to be more government research into them. Third party, non biased information gathering to better understand, how can AI increase your yield? If you put money into an automated machine, um, how much are you going to be able to save? Like, how fast is that machine going to pay itself off?
Right.
If you use things like variable rates, like what does that do in hard monetary percentages? Like, how does that change your operation? And that's a hard thing to pin down, but I do think as media, we need to do a better job on covering that, on trying to pick it apart because one farmer can't necessarily understand that. But if you look at 100 farmers, you can start to gather enough data to consider averages to think about it in terms of statistics.
Yeah, I mean, ROI is what it has to be about, and you're 100% right. Like, if you buy an automated machine and it can make you, let's say it's only making an extra $10,000 a year, but it costs you an extra $400,000. So like there's no point. And I love the thought of there being independent research because, I can do all of the studies on my own products and say, hey, look, this is what we've
Yeah.
learned, but I'm selling the product. I would love if there was somebody out there
Mhm.
really focused on putting on these trials and saying, I've thought about it before. I actually have a really good friend who's as crazy as I am. He's our videographer, but we thought about creating the Thunder Farm and getting this land. Yeah, I know everything's
That's a good
thunder.
idea.
Getting this land that, call it 1,000 acres and inviting everybody to come. Like you say your concaves are the best, great. During harvest, tell me what machine you want to be in and we're going to compete. You say your seeder's the best. You say your planting technology, like you say your seeds are the best. Your fertilizer's the best. Your chemicals the best. Great. We'll give you a plot and we'll let you prove it. And then we'll take all of this food that's grown and we'll donate it to it. Like we don't need to make money on that, but we'll film, we'll publicize, we'll create a reality TV show. We haven't gotten there yet, but I think it's, we need something that where people actually know that like I can trust this because
Hmm.
it's this group that's put it out there, not the sales guy that's
Yeah.
trying to sell it.
And nothing against you guys.
No,
I mean, I trust the information that comes out, but some people use different brands. Not everybody uses the same paint color. So like there's, you can say, these technologies are similar, but I think there's value in looking at broad data sets. I will note that these technologies are so new, that I think it's difficult to gather that. I mean, how do you, how do
how
you
do you
deduce, yeah, how do you quantify if something's worthwhile that just came out last spring? Like,
right? It's going to
you
take a
can't.
couple springs,
Yeah.
but we need to be doing that.
Yes. So I think the industry as a whole can do a better job of that. And as media, we can certainly do a better job of trying to dig in and find those stories.
I love that. So I'm going to ask you, we'll call it the last question, but whenever I say last question, it always ends up being something else. Actually, there's two more. One is what's one thing that I didn't ask you about that you were like, man, he should have asked me this.
I will say, and my boss always gets mad at me when I talk about this, but I'm excited about solar. I'm excited about particularly agrivoltaics and the possibility of creating independent, sustainable funding streams for agriculture, and encouraging symbiotic relationships that don't drown farmers in solar panels, that create cooperative agreements that benefit both parties. Because in my research, I found that solar energy is I've said this again, inevitable, and it's
Hmm.
coming, and there's no way to stop it. And agriculture can either take a strong approach and bend it to benefit for them, or land's going to be gobbled up. People that are leasing land to farmers can lease it at far higher rates to solar developers, and that's what they're going to do. So land prices are going to skyrocket. It's going to be really difficult for farmers to compete in this arena, and it's coming. It's inevitable. So yeah, that's one area that I think is needs
How
more focus too.
and we can't go forever on this, but the thing that we need to figure out is how do we continue to row crop with solar? Because the problem is we have to feed the world. The world is like it's growing, and the flip side of that, I agree with you. Solar is huge,
Hmm.
but that is, and I know why your boss doesn't want you to say that because that's a huge flashpoint. I don't care.
It
I'm the
is.
boss, so I can say that.
Yeah.
But I know farmers that are like sell out, sold out, and yet the farmer that sold out, he's eliminated his risk.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do both? We're gonna have to figure that because people still got to eat.
It's such a contentious point, and that's the
Oh,
thing. Like you take a stance, and then you're in direct opposition to someone else, and I don't think it should be like that. But I think the role ultimately comes down to local governments to create regulations to get a whole in front of it,
hmm.
and to protect the rural spaces in their communities, to determine where it can go, how it can go, um, and create structure that solar developers, which are making so much money and coming with high-powered lawyers, create boundaries that they can't overstep.
Man, Andy, I got to tell you, like I said right at the beginning, I didn't know where this was going to go. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and just felt like we were just hanging out and I'm getting to learn from you as you do this. Last thing, is, and I've asked everybody this, I don't know if I still should, but weapon of choice. This is Ag Warriors. I've heard every different kind of weapon. It doesn't have to be an actual weapon, but if you had to go to battle, what's the tool, or like one guy who's his charisma, another, I've heard so many different ones. What's your weapon of choice if you're going into battle?
That's an easy one, and you're asking a journalist, so it has to be the
I
pen.
I thought it might be the pen. I thought that's where you would go, but this has been
This
fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
sounds great. Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed it.